being exposed by the industry's most foremost publications, there might be some truth.
In this case, we're not dealing with the smartest person in the world. We know that from all the things we've seen. Seriously, she's not.
About Meghan's presence at the Invictus Games. Because we saw Meghan marching in front of the athletes. We saw Meghan trying to murder.
Why Meghan?
Well, because she posed a challenge to the royal family.
Netflix is reportedly done with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. That is reporting from Variety.
Games in Canada were overshadowed by Meghan Markle's public appearances, referring to the event as the Meghan Games.
It started with a moment that most people almost missed. A split-second clip, a public appearance, a photo that didn't quite sit right. And yet, within days, it had turned into something much bigger. Because this time, the conversation wasn't just about Meghan Markle, it was about intent. It was about image. And for some critics, it raised a far more uncomfortable question.
But here's the thing about ambition that Meghan Markle and her ilk, because she's not the only one guilty of this, have gotten wrong.
Was something deeper going on behind the scenes? If you want more deep dives into royal stories like this, make sure to subscribe to Royal Archives, because some of these moments only make sense when you see the full picture. At first glance, everything seemed familiar. The Invictus Games, an event founded by Prince Harry, has always been about one thing: honoring wounded, injured, and sick servicemen and women. It's not a red carpet. It's not a celebrity showcase. It's meant to be about resilience, recovery, and respect. So when Meghan appeared at the Games, walking alongside participants, smiling, engaging, it looked, on the surface, like support. But almost immediately, the narrative began to shift.
We go beyond palace press releases and carefully staged photo ops to look at what's really being communicated.
Because what some viewers saw wasn't just participation. They saw presence. And for some, that presence felt too central. Clips began circulating online. Moments from the event were replayed, paused, analyzed. Not by tabloids alone, but by viewers, commentators, and even members of the disability community. One moment, in particular, stood out. In a group setting, Meghan was seen briefly adjusting the position of a wheelchair during a photo. To many watching casually, it might have seemed insignificant, a quick movement, a minor adjustment, but others saw something very different. Zainab and voices from within the disability community began speaking up. They pointed out something that isn't always obvious to outsiders. A wheelchair isn't just equipment, it's personal space, it's autonomy, it's part of someone's physical independence, and moving it, especially without clear consent, can feel invasive.
It's so apparent to the public that Meghan Markle is a relentless fraud. She is a total...
Now, to be clear, there was no official statement suggesting harm or intent, and not everyone agreed with the criticism. But the reaction itself was real, and it added fuel to a conversation that was already building, because this wasn't happening in isolation. Around the same time, media coverage of the Invictus Games began drawing attention for a different reason. Some reports and commentators noted that headlines and social media discussions seemed to focus heavily on Meghan, her outfits, her gestures, her presence, some more than the athletes themselves. Now again, this wasn't universally accepted. Some argued that media attention follows public figures naturally. Others pointed out that visibility can bring more attention to the cause. But critics weren't convinced. They began asking, at what point does visibility become overshadowing? And that question didn't stay confined to the event.
Whose lives are shrouded in mystery, and they want to hide their secrets, and I just love...
Because soon, it intersected with something else entirely, a narrative that had been quietly building in the background. Author and journalist Tom Bauer, known for his investigative biographies, had already been a controversial voice when it came to Meghan and Harry. His work has been described by supporters as detailed and revealing, and by critics as one-sided and critical. But regardless of where people stand, one thing is undeniable. When Bauer speaks, people pay attention. And this time, his commentary reignited scrutiny around Meghan's public role, particularly in high-profile events tied to charitable causes. According to discussions circulating in media and commentary spaces, Bauer questioned the balance between personal branding and charitable focus, not as a definitive claim of wrongdoing, but as a challenge to how these moments are presented and perceived. And that distinction matters, because what we're looking at here isn't a confirmed scandal. It's something more complicated. It's a collision between public perception, media framing, and individual interpretation. And in today's environment, that combination can be powerful, because perception doesn't just reflect reality. Sometimes it shapes it. As the conversation grew, something else started to happen. The focus shifted again, from a single moment to a broader pattern. Some commentators began revisiting past appearances, past interviews, past initiatives, looking for consistency, looking for alignment between message and moment. And whether fair or not, a narrative started forming. Not universally accepted, not officially confirmed, but persistent. And narratives like that don't fade quickly. They evolve, they expand, and sometimes they begin to touch areas that are far more personal. Because just as the Invictus discussion was gaining traction, another topic entered the conversation, one that had nothing to do with public events and everything to do with privacy, family, and boundaries. At first, it appeared in passing, a mention here, a headline there, but within days, it became clear. This wasn't just about appearances anymore. This was about something much closer to home. And the question people began asking next was even more uncomfortable than the first. Where is the line between public life and personal life? And who gets to decide when that line is crossed? Because what came next would shift the entire conversation. And not everyone was prepared for it. That shift didn't happen overnight. It built slowly, almost quietly, until suddenly, it was everywhere. Because once the conversation moved beyond public appearances, it entered territory that audiences react to very differently. Family, children, privacy. And in today's media landscape, that combination is explosive. At the center of this next wave of discussion was Meghan and Harry's daughter, Lilibet. Now, to be clear, there's been no confirmed wrongdoing or official controversy involving their child. But what did emerge was a growing conversation about how public figures balance privacy with visibility. Because for years, one of the most consistent themes from Meghan and Harry has been their desire to protect their children's privacy. They've spoken openly about stepping back from royal life, about avoiding the pressures of constant public scrutiny, about creating a more controlled environment for their family. And for many, that stance earned respect. But as time went on, some commentators began pointing out what they saw as a contradiction. Moments where carefully curated glimpses of their children appeared in media. Announcements, photos, or references that, while limited, still entered the public space. Again, not unusual. Many public figures do this. But in this case, critics argued that the messaging around privacy didn't always align with those moments of visibility. And that's where the conversation intensified. Because now it wasn't just about what was being shared, it was about why. Some observers suggested that even limited exposure could still contribute to a broader public narrative, one that keeps interest, attention, and relevance alive. Others strongly disagreed, saying that occasional updates don't undermine a clear effort to protect a child's life from constant exposure. Two completely different interpretations, looking at the same set of actions. And in the middle of that divide, one thing became clear. Perception was once again driving the story. At the same time, friend Tom Bauer's earlier criticisms continued to circulate in discussions and commentary spaces. Supporters of his perspective pointed to what they saw as a consistent pattern: high-profile appearances, carefully managed visibility, and moments where attention appeared to shift toward Meghan herself. Critics of Bauer, however, pushed back hard. They argued that his framing often leans heavily into criticism, and that public figures, especially ones as globally recognized as Meghan, will naturally draw media attention regardless of intent. And that's the key tension here. Because this isn't a story built on a single event. It's a story built on interpretation, on how people connect moments together, and what conclusions they draw from them. And once those conclusions start spreading, they take on a life of their own. The Invictus Games moment, right, the wheelchair clip, the media headlines, the discussions about privacy and visibility. Individually, each one can be explained, but together, they form something more complex. A narrative that asks, is this simply the reality of being a global public figure? Or is there something more intentional behind it? And that question doesn't have a single answer, because for every critic who sees contradiction, there's a supporter who sees scrutiny taken too far. For every headline suggesting imbalance, there's another pointing out the positive impact of visibility. And that's what makes this story so difficult to resolve, because it exists in that gray space between fact and interpretation, between intention and perception, between what's shown and what's assumed. But if there's one thing that stands out above everything else, guys, it's this. The conversation isn't slowing down. If anything, it's becoming more layered, more nuanced, more divided, because the more visible someone becomes, the more their actions are analyzed, not just for what they are, but for what they might mean. And in Meghan Markle's case, that level of attention isn't going anywhere. Whether it's a public event, a media appearance, or even a brief moment caught on camera. Each piece becomes part of a larger puzzle, a puzzle that millions of people are trying to solve, often with very different conclusions. So where does that leave the story now? Not with a clear ending, not with a definitive answer, but with something else entirely, an ongoing narrative, one that continues to evolve with every appearance, every headline, every reaction. And maybe that's the real reason this story holds so much attention, because it doesn't give easy answers. It leaves space for debate, for interpretation, for disagreement, and in a world driven by constant content, that might be the most powerful thing of all. If you want to stay ahead of these unfolding royal stories and see the full context behind the headlines, make sure to subscribe to Royal Archives, because sometimes what looks like a simple moment is actually just the beginning of a much bigger story.